call.
This call is being
some
recorded.
some people are, maybe they own large-scale businesses, mid-sized businesses. Maybe they're looking to start a different type of business. And so some of the content I'll talk about that I've learned both from the clients I've worked with and spoken for, as well as my own personal experience, this can really apply to anything. So if you don't have a piece of paper out with a pen, you're going to be missing out, because we're going to be talking fast. And honestly, I really do want you all to be, whether it's questions about how to get into the speaking profession, how to write your own book. I've written a couple books, or just, about leadership and motivation in general, how to motivate your, and get to that next level for your career. I'm game. It's all up for grabs. So do me a favor. If any of you, I want to make sure I get your questions answered, whether it's tonight or later. I'm going to give you both my email and my cell phone. That way you can text me or you can send me an email. I can address it tonight when I get it. My email is this. So write this down. It's kevinsnyder.com. And Snyder is spelled like a pretzel. So it's kevinsnyder.com. And my cell phone, which I completely do not mind giving out, is 919-633-9931. Again, that's 919-633-9931. So you can shoot me a text, send me an email, anything you'd like to know. If I can support in any way, glad to help. But some of the I'm going to talk briefly for about maybe 10 minutes tops. So I'm going to give you a little small sample of some of the content, the most important content I feel that people connect best to when I speak across the country and when I speak with businesses. 2 or 3 concepts that are in my book, but also just concepts that most apply. And I think, let me start off with just by saying this. This is one of my favorite quotes. I don't know who said this, but I believe in it fully. What we do today determines our future tomorrow. So I believe in action. Some of the concepts I'll be sharing, some people might say, oh, it's mindset. It's kind of what they call airy-fairy. But I'll tell you this. It all starts with that. It all starts with the belief and the mindset. And if we don't listen with a healthy mindset, we're not going to be able to really Brandon, can you hear me, buddy?
Yeah, I hear you, Kevin.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just got a notice that I was muted. So, all right. Because if nothing changes after the next few minutes, then this call has been a waste of time. So let's think about what can we actually relate to our lives that we can implement and take some action with. So here is the number one thing that I see entrepreneurs and small business owners and people that want to start a business. This is the number one thing that I find through my experience that limits their success. And that is that they allow themselves to get in their own way. Meaning they think they need to have something else or something more before they can start doing whatever it is they want to do. That might be money. It might be more education. It might be something, another acronym behind their name. It might be family circumstances. All of those are important, but there tends, what I find, to be a focus for a lot of people on reasons why they can't do something versus why they can. So here's the point. If you want to do anything, like I tell this to my coaching clients for speaking, if you want to speak, you don't need me. Start speaking. Now, I can help them with speaking, or I can help them with book writing, per se. But if you want to write a book, if you want to speak, if you want to start your business here, the best way to do something is to simply start doing it. Some of the most amazing and successful companies started in a garage. They started with an idea. They didn't start with these folks that said, oh, I've got to have a business plan, I've got to have a marketing strategy, and I've got to have... No. Walt Disney, he said, it all begins with a dream. That's where it all starts. It starts with a thought, a vision. And I think we lose sight of that. I think a lot of times I find, and this is, I think, endemic not just to entrepreneurs and business owners, but to everybody. They focus on, or they allow themselves to not, or they get caught up in the fact that they have to just have something else before they can get started. And the reality is, no, you can get started right now. You can get started tomorrow morning. And that's the way that it should be. So we're all born with three things: our mind, our body, and our lifetime, and the first two determine the third. So I'm here to tell you tonight, you can start the next chapter of your life. You can start the next chapter of your business, whatever it is that you decide, your relationships, simply by making that simple choice that it begins now. So if you want to start anything new, just simply start doing it. Now, one other, or a couple other quick thoughts, and this hit me as I was speaking to a bank this past week, and I was trying to keep things fairly simple for them because they gave me a short amount of time to speak for them, about 15, 20 minutes. I said, if there's one principle that some of the leaders that I've studied, what is it? And it's tough to find just one. But I came up with as I was reflecting on this opportunity with this industry and with this company, it hit me. The most successful people that I've studied, the most successful people that I've known, I look at the companies, the executives I've worked with, every one of them has a level of expectancy. I'll say that word again. It's called expectancy, meaning they don't have goals they hope occur, or I prefer the word manifest. They don't have goals they hope manifest. They have, and they set goals they expect to manifest. I think that is a huge, huge difference with a lot of people that are successful with those that just simply want to be. So for like me personally, I don't set goals I hope happen. I set goals I expect to happen as well. So for all the people on this call, think about a goal that you have in anything, whatever's already come to your mind. Think of a goal that you have, or write this goal down and ask yourself this question. You have to be true to yourself. Is that a goal that you hope happens for you or for your business or for your relationships or for anything? Is that a goal you hope happens, or is that a goal that you honestly expect to happen? Because if you don't expect that to happen, then guess what? It probably won't, because there's something else that needs to occur there to help you believe in it strongly enough so that you're going to take the required action, to manifest it. And I find a lot of people, they'll quit. They'll quit before they're so close. Or all they need is just a little bit more time to keep pursuing it. Because if you're willing to quit, then you don't want it that enough, or maybe somebody else is willing to work just a little bit harder to stick at it. So that level of expectancy is so crucial with how we're going to achieve the types of goals that we want for ourselves, our business. I mean, you fill in the blank. We have to expect what it is that we desire, rather than just hope that it happens. And I think a lot of folks, they read great books, like, for example, not to pick on the law of attraction, which is what The Secret was based on, but you can't just sit and focus on something and think, oh, I really vision that. Make your vision board, per se, and then expect it to happen. You have to take action. So that level of expectancy is very crucial. And I think underneath expectancy, well, how do you develop expectancy? Like, how do you develop it to the nth degree? And there's two concepts that I'll share, and then I'll kind of be done with some of this content. Is there's two subcomponents to developing a high level of expectancy that's going to help us achieve our goals, and that is, number one, thinking different than someone else. Thinking different than even you thought before. You have to think different. You have to think unique. And number two is my favorite word, and that's passion. You have to have passion for what it is you're investing so much time with. So, going back to think differently just for a moment, I want to share a brief story with you. It's the story of Roger Bannister, who in 1954 broke the 4-minute mile. He did what people thought was impossible. Other runners, researchers, people said it is physiologically impossible for the human body to run 1 mile quicker than 4 minutes. And then Roger did it. And when in my presentations, I ask people, without even knowing the story, or without knowing Roger, give me some descriptors that do you feel help make that achievement possible? And I bring up several. That he worked hard, he was persistent, he was motivated, he had a vision. What pulls it all together, though, is that he expected to actually break that mile. He didn't hope he'd break the 4-minute mile. He expected to, and he thought differently. He didn't listen to all the naysayers. Think about your own life. For all the people on this call right now, has anyone ever told you that you cannot do something? Now, has anybody ever told you, oh, we tried it that way, and that way won't work? Think of some of the unfortunate negativity you've probably had in your life, and the fact that it doesn't matter what other people feel or believe. What matters is what you believe. And when you're able to think a little differently and know that, hey, because I think differently, that's the reason I'm going to achieve my goal, that failure is not bad. Failure is good because it's going to teach you something. And as long as you learn from it, it's now a teachable moment. I just tweeted that out today that, mistakes are lessons of wisdom. Failure is good. And that got favorited and tweeted by over 100 people because it's such a simple truth. It's nothing I made up. It's just a fact. And people, I think we need to hear that. We need to be connected to some of these simple truths, things that we already know. I likely haven't shared much with you don't already know, but my challenge to you is hearing it from somebody you may not know. Are you applying it? And I think as speakers, or as a speaker, that's at least one of my roles, is to help people realize they already have what they need in the palm of their hand, and it's actually mostly in their mindset. So thinking differently is essential. Success is not a straight line. It's a bunch of squiggly lines. And in the squiggly lines, that's the patience that we need, that's the vision that we need, the expectancy, the learning from the failure. And it's okay, because the straight arrow of success just doesn't exist. It's making mistakes sometimes, it's learning from mistakes, and it's also just having some patience. So thinking differently is key. Roger Bannister, the 4-minute mile runner, he taught us that. And here's the great thing about the end of that story, and then I'll close that piece of it, is that since 1954, the record that was once thought humanly impossible, that record has been broken well over 100 times since then, simply because one person showed that it was possible. And Roger Bannister is absolutely no different than me, than Brandon, than anybody else on this phone call. It's all about your expectancy and how you're going to think differently when you're faced with a challenge, with an obstacle. And it's tough. I know it's tough, but to think differently, we have to go outside our comfort zone, think outside the box. But that is the reason that you'll be more successful than most, is because you simply won't quit when others do. I could talk about think differently quite a bit. That's actually the title of my book. So there's lots of examples in there and practical lessons that are in the book that I put in there specifically to help people with this mindset, because the reality is 73% of our thoughts on a daily basis are negative. 73%. So thinking different is a tough thing to do, but it's also the sine qua non, as we say in Latin, it's the epitome, the panacea for success. And then the second thing, I talked about what develops this level of expectancy. Number one is think differently. Number two, it's this concept of passion, which we don't talk enough about. We talk about leadership and what makes an influential leader. But passion is the source. Passion is the key. And Zig Ziglar said it best with passion. He said this. He goes, when you have passion for something, you'll find a way to make it happen because you don't want to quit. When you're passionate about something, you don't want to stop. The reality is most people, if you ask them what they're passionate about, they wouldn't know. Or they'd say, well, they sound like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. And yet, with what we do in our career, we spend more time with our career than we do with our family. So we deserve to understand what it's like to be passionate and to follow our passion. Because when you're passionate about something, you also look forward to it. So some of the best ways to really explore what you're passionate about is to ask yourself questions like, what am I good at? What do I enjoy doing? What is it that when I'm doing it, time just seems to stop? And regardless, if you can answer those questions fully and clearly, that's at least some of the beginning opportunities to surface what your passions may be. So passion is the key. It's really the source, I feel, of leadership and how to be influential. Because when people know that you're passionate about something, you carry an energy, you carry an enthusiasm that goes along with it, and they will literally wonder what it is about you, and they become very curious, and they want whatever that is. They want to follow that. So never, ever forget the power of passion, because it's going to also force you and compel you to work so hard that you won't quit. It ties nicely in to think differently. So the passion piece plus thinking different equals you developing that level of expectancy that's going to help you achieve any goal that you have, any desire that you want to achieve. Whew. So I'm going to shut up. I'll take, Brad, I know that you mentioned you already had a couple questions. I could keep talking for a while, but honestly, I'd rather answer some questions people, what might they already have.
I mean, we don't want to stop you from, dropping those nuggets, man. I mean, if you got more, we want to get as much as we can get from you, because I mean, we don't get an opportunity. I read an article not too long ago, and it mentioned about TED Talk and TEDx, and a lot of people have seen your resume, heard me talk about your bio tonight, but not just anyone gets the chance to be on TEDx or TED Talks. So we're really hungry, like Les Brown would say. We're hungry right now, and we're craving that knowledge that you have, and want that information about becoming a speaker. There's a few people on the call right now that are aspiring to be speakers, aspiring to be authors. So we want to get those nuggets of wisdom and some of the things you talked about tonight, especially about the thinking differently. And one of the things I always talk about, Kevin, is I would say there's two reasons why someone's kicking your butt. When oftentimes it's human nature, we look at someone else's situation and we see that they're doing better than us, and we're like, well, how are they doing better, or why is it that they seem like they're always winning? And I always tell people, I say there's two reasons. The first reason is, number one, not that they're better than you or any of that stuff. Number one is that they got information that you're not privy to have, or they have information that you just don't have. And the second part of that is that they're making decisions that you're not based on that information that they have. So when you're sleeping, they're working. They're taking that knowledge and that wisdom and they're applying it, and they're doing, bigger things with it. So that's that part when you talking about, thinking differently. And that applied to me so much. And then when you talk about, how do you start, how do you begin? And, I got two people came in mind. Les Brown, he always said, you don't have to be great to start, but you got to start to be great. And A.L. Williams, he said this years ago. He said, just do it. Before Nike came out with it, he said, just do it. Stop talking about it. Just go ahead. If you want to be a speaker, go ahead and be a speaker. Go ahead and start talking, setting up meetings. That's all it takes. So I kind of wanted to say that before we get into the questions. I don't know if you have more to say, but if you do, please go ahead and, drop some knowledge on us if you have some more to say before we go into the question and answer portion of it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Les Brown, he's one of my favorite speakers, too. I saw him speak live last year, and I tell you, I don't think I laughed more and wrote more down. My hand was hurting at the end of his 30-minute talk, and I thought, what a great mentor, what a great person. So enthusiastic. You know, he was followed and preceded by other well-known speakers that we all know their name. I'm not going to mention them because it's not going to sound good what I'm about to say, but Les Brown made them look like they were amateurs because he had so much enthusiasm and he had just laughter in his own voice. I mean, you could tell, you wanted to know, what does this guy know? Because he clearly knows something because he's just having such a good time on stage. So that hit me as a speaker. That hit me. It made me realize, you know, sometimes in life we just got to keep things simple. You know, it's not about all the time what we know. It's about how we express it. So, you know, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Les because he's one of the best. So,
I mean, definitely. I definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah, hit me up with a question, Brandon, because I'm sure more will come out of me, and I'll let the spirit move me if I allow it. So.
Okay. So what I'm going to do what I'm going to do is now I'm going to open up the calls to some questions. I know that people got some questions out there. I have people texting me right now, so I want to go first or whatever. So if you have a question for Dr. Snyder at this time, well, we already got someone already unmuted. So go ahead with your question. I think that's Felicia. I believe that's Felicia.
Yes.
Is unmuted?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. How you doing? My name is Felicia, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York. And the two questions I want to ask you is how to start my book and how to end it. The second question is, who do I go to, and what kind of information can I get to begin my book?
Great question, and I'm proud of you, number one, for having that desire and that hunger to write. You know, writing a book can be a very frustrating and lonely experience because it forces you to isolate yourself and to write and to write and to write and then edit and write again. And I think with a book, the great thing about a book is a book now is different than it's ever been. You know, a book in the past, if you asked your parents, oh, what's a book? You know, how many pages is a book? They would say, oh, a book's about, 200 pages, hard copy, blah, blah, blah. You know, I've written a couple books that are between 70 to 80 pages. I've seen books that, in fact, some of the best business books in the past couple of years, like The Fish Philosophy, like The 1 Minute Manager, like Who Moved My Cheese, My Iceberg is Melting, some of these business books. These books are about 120, 30 pages with wide margins, 14-size font. And if you look at the word count, I mean, these books are like, they make it simple. So I think this is a great example. Like when people write books, I find this all the time with some of the folks I work with, is that they make a book more complicated than it needs to be. 80% of a book is, in fact, more than that, is having the manuscript written. So, people ask, well, what about how am I going to market it? How am I going to produce it? How am I going to, no. Slow down. Let's get the book done first. And then, I know my first book that I wrote, I sent it to a printer, a publisher, and every time I got the book back from them, the book had errors in it. I mean, I had to have that book re-edited about 5 or 6 times. It was so frustrating. And now the company I work with, they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And I've actually printed 4 books in the past 2 years simply by just knowing how I write, which is probably the best answer to your question, is number one, make sure you have a good outline. And that was one of the first things I did. I wrote my outline, and then I also wrote my dedication. So I wrote it with that expectancy. And I already went and dedicated to my family and to some other people. And then I just started writing. And I made sure that I wrote at a time, like for me personally, I write best in the morning before the day hits and you get hit with a lot of distractions. So you might write better, in the evening or late at night. I wrote the best, though, in the morning when I had a cup of coffee and I just kind of cleared my head for the day and say, hey, for the next 3 to 4 hours, I'm going to write. So what I found is a lot of people, they don't have a system. They don't know how they write, or they don't know when they're the best and they're the most focused. So knowing that for yourself will be very, very helpful. And then really, you just have to do it. You just have to block it out and say, hey, for the next 2 or 3 hours, I'm going to focus on writing, and I'm going to do this, for the next 3 or 4 days. I'm going to take a day off, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take a day off. But you have to have that dedicated focus. And a book can be any amount of pages. It doesn't have to be a 200-page book or a 300-page book. I mean, those books, they collect dust on a shelf right now because we're so busy. We got so much stuff going on. So I would say, keep your books simple. And guess what? With the company I work with, I'll be happy to mention, it's called CreateSpace. It's an affiliate of Amazon. You could add to that book even when the book's already done. So, I mean, I hate to make it sound simple. It requires a lot of time and focused discipline, but it definitely doesn't have to be as complicated as the majority of people I work with, or talk to at least on book writing. So I hope that helped a little bit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
5, 5, 5, 5.
Okay. That was pretty. I think that was kind of a real down to earth answer, and I like that too. And I mean, in the process of writing my book, I can also agree with you, Kevin, that it's a discipline. I mean, it really takes time, and you got to find out what works for you best, what times of the day. And like yourself, I oftentimes find myself early in the morning, like really before my day begins. Sometimes 3 in the morning I start writing and write all the way to 7, and that's kind of like my flow before because 7 o'clock comes, you got to go to the gym, you got to do your work for the day. So it's kind of like I feel exactly where you're coming from on that, and we got some other people on the line as well. I think Manson might be on the line. He actually wrote a book, and he's part of our Les Brown Mastermind group. And he gave us he has a real inspiring story. It's kind of we went to the Les Brown seminar, and the definition of success is when preparation meets opportunity. And Manson is like the epitome of that because he had his book already written, and when Les Brown came to him, he had the audacity, I say, to pick up his book and took that picture with Les Brown, and Les Brown's holding his book like, hey, I'm endorsing you. You read this book, and Manson's a DJ, so he basically his book is about how to DJ, how to get yourself out there. And I always talk about that situation, and I said, well, I didn't have my book written, so I didn't prepare. So the opportunity came, and I missed it, But he was able to capture it, and so I always tell people that's my own plot. It makes me look at myself and reevaluate myself as a leader and say, hey, this is what I have to get on and what I have to do. So I kind of really relate to you on that, and I hope Felicia that answers your question. But the first, how do you write that book? 1 page at a time. One word at a time, 1 sentence at a time. That's how you're going to get it done. So I hope that helped as well. We're going to move on to the next question. If you have a question at this time, please hit star. We're going to try to get you to say your name and where you're calling from and ask your question to Kevin.
Check.
Hello?
Hello, this is Ernest.
Yes.
This is Ernest McKinney in Fresno, California. I have a question for Dr. Snyder.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Dr. Snyder, I appreciate your comments on what's required to be successful in reaching your goals. Now, my question is, what changes would you recommend in the way our public school system operates in order to encourage more students to enter business at an early age?
If I heard it right, what would I recommend?
Yeah,
I
see it. Of course, I think a direct connection in the way young people are educated, and the level or the degree in which young people are encouraged or discouraged to go into business for themselves. What changes in the way the public school system operates that would encourage more young people to set goals for developing their own business?
Right. Well, it's interesting you asked me that, because the last speaking engagement I had was for a bank, and they asked me to come in and talk to not just their staff, but do a separate program for a summer camp for a group of kids who were involved with who lived in Habitat for Humanity homes, and they wanted these young children to get information about finance and about really financial literacy, about how important it is to save or to invest money, or just to be thinking about money at a different level. And it was very applied. So I guess the answer to that question would be applied knowledge. It's not about just what you learn, it's about how you utilize what you learn. And I was so impressed with this, because here were these 12, 15-year-olds learning about, taking a couple of days of their summer to learn about money. And I'm thinking, I never took a course in high school about money. I took English, I took math, I took science. I never took a course on business. Yet, for me personally, I had a neighborhood lawn business. I was that neighborhood lawn boy, and I started with 1 yard and did okay. Then it led to 2 other referrals. That went okay. And the next summer, I started with 3 yards. That grew to about 10 the next summer. And as a sophomore in high school, I had 25 yards cut in a week. And my dad was taking me to the bank every other week, and I was depositing about $500. And this was back in like early 90s. I mean, not that I'm that old per se, but the whole point is, that I never took a course in that, but I had the discipline, though, to not spend that money. I had the discipline, and I guess my parents raised me in that way, where, I still went out with my friends and did some stuff, but you know what? I saved that money. And what's interesting, too, is, or not interesting, but just, that amount of money was the exact amount of money. Like, when I took that one summer, I had that last summer, I invested that money and I put it in a mutual fund. And 5 years later, that money was the exact amount of money that was my first down payment on a house. So my recommendation would be to kind of just use experiences and stories like that. I would love to hear that the school system, if they have Common Core standards or this and that, they've got to have business as a part of that. They've got to have teachers have got to be sharing some of these stories, pulling people in to share these stories, where part of our education is not what we learn in the classroom, it's also what we do with what we know, how we apply that. I hope that helped a little bit or answered that question.
Based on a critical area, financial literacy needs to be, that type of class or curriculum should be a major part of the elementary and secondary education. And
I agree.
That's one of the things that's lacking. Education about money, how to use it, how to make it, and so forth. I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you too, Kevin, and thank you, Ernest, for asking that question. I think also too, sometimes when we look at education, not really, go to John F. Kennedy is not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I think as leaders, we have to position ourselves, well, if the school system is not doing this, then what are we going to do as speakers, as orators, or whatever our profession, what are we going to do outside of the box to take the information that we've learned, the experiences that we have, and share those with with children, so they can get that education and those experiences. I mean, education doesn't necessarily have to be in a brick and mortar building. It can be anywhere where we're sharing our experience, whether it's going to the Boys and Girls Club, United Way, sharing our experiences, what we've learned through life. I mean, that's what life is. Life is nothing but an exchange of experiences and ideas. So we can take those ideas and those experiences and share them directly with some of these groups, then we're able to make a change. And I think that's the most important thing. But I think sometimes if we wait for the school system or the school board to implement these things, we're going to be waiting for a long time, and a lot of stuff that we could have got accomplished won't, and we're going to lose a lot of precious children. It's going to, lose focus and get to a level where their finances, like that 98% of people that just don't get it. That 98% of people just don't get it. So if we want to stop that, I think we have to, take initiative and engage that directly. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, and give your piece of that.
Well, I believe in education. I really do. I come from a family of teachers, and my mom and my sister are both math teachers. And I've got a master's and a doctorate. But I'll tell you what, my education, I've learned more about success and failure in life by simply applying what I learned in the classroom. It's everything in life is about application. I mean, theory is great. I remember in my dissertation or in my graduate courses, I learned a lot of theory, but theory doesn't mean anything if you don't apply it. So we have to focus on that too. It's not necessarily what we know. In fact, it's more importantly about what we do with what we know. And I think in the age of technology, and this next generation, the millennials, they're going to prove us. It's going to be like, what in the world? Woo! They're going to, knowledge is so much quicker or much more quickly obtained now because of technology. And it's not necessarily what you know, it's how quickly you can access knowledge. And it's going to be very interesting. So I think the key word with all this, for me at least, the take home I have is applying what we know. Applying what we learn in the classroom. And I think teachers have to do that too. I mean, administrators have to, they have to have, there has to be a component to that. Not that there's not. I'm not suggesting there's not, but I think in some, we all know that there's areas of improvement. So.
Thank you. All right, on to the next question. If you have a question for Dr. Snyder, please hit star and ask your question. Please let us know your name and where you're from, though.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, cool. Hey, how you doing? My name is Manson Miller, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Hello? Hello?
We can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
What's your question?
I apologize. Yes. Well, anyway, y'all was talking about my book earlier, the Motivation for DJs. And first of all, I want to say, thank you for using me as an example. That was great and very inspiring. But I guess the question that I would have is, now that I actually have my book out and it's selling on Amazon and CreateSpace, Barnes and Noble, and right now I'm trying to get it inside the stores. Inside of DJ stores, and maybe one day have a DJ company actually want to buy the rights to my book, just buy my company. What advice would you basically give on that?
Advice on how to get your book sold in that road. Help me with the specific question.
Hello, buddy. Can you hear me?
Okay, I apologize about that. Basically, how would it help me better? What advice could you give me on getting a distribution deal for my book? As being an independent author. Right.
No, that's a great question. Here's what from my experience, and this is a key word from my experience. I've heard a lot of people who are published authors, and I've talked with agents too. And I actually just went to a conference about a week ago with some experts in publishing, And if you can demonstrate a history of sales with your own book, then that's going to get the attention of, an agent, or that, somebody that maybe purchased those rights. It's exactly what's happened with most of the books that we know of right now. For example, 50 Shades of Grey, that was actually written by a woman who, if you know of that book, her name's E.L. James. She actually wrote that book and self-published that book. It was under a different title. She had a pen name. Nobody knew but she utilized her followers from some of the Twilight fan fiction blogs that she had written and things. But the point is, her book had so much traction and sales success that then she actually got approached. So, there's different ways of doing it, but I think, even for my books, I'll be transparent with everyone on the call here. My goal is not to have my books on or in Barnes & Noble. My books, I initially wrote my first book to help give credibility to me as a speaker. Yet my books have sold thousands of copies because I sell my books when I speak. If people like me as a speaker, hopefully they'll want to buy the books afterward. And frankly, to be honest with you, I include the books as part of my package. Like when people hire me to speak, I say, hey, how many people are going to be in the audience? Oh, 200. Hey, I'd like to provide a book for all of them at half off. Would that be something you're interested in? And they'd be like, tell me more. So I sell a ton of books through my speaking. And I know other people that they sell books to speak. It's kind of interesting how it all works. But I think the key with this, to answer the question, is really having a strategy with how you can sell a lot of books. Because if you haven't sold, and I'm not suggesting this, so I apologize, but knowing that you'll get attention when you start selling, or when you are selling, that's what's going to get their attention. Because they'll ask you, well, it's like Shark Tank. That's one of the common questions on the show Shark Tank. They ask them, well, how many of these products have you sold? And if they already have a history of sales success, that gets their attention because it shows the likelihood for future success.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That was a lot of great lessons right there. Because one idea that I had for getting more attention for my book is actually starting to do motivational speeches on YouTube. But the thing about my speeches, is just strictly dedicated to DJs. It's teaching DJs how to talk on a microphone. And I figure if I do a good enough speech and post it on YouTube and post several of them, they may like the speech and, may think, okay, I want to know more about this book that this DJ is talking about.
There you go. And I tell you, if you write a book, one of my best friends is a DJ. In fact, I want you to email me and give me the copy or the link for your address so I can send him a link. He'll buy it.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
What's your email? Or are you allowed to give it over the line? Or?
Oh, sure. No, I gave it before. I'll give it again right now. It's Kevin at kevincsnyder.com. And Snyder is spelled like the pretzel. But again, it's Kevin at kevincsnyder.com. SNYDER. Yeah, and I found that too. There's lots of books out there now, and I think the more specific you can be, like I like your book concept because it's very specific to an industry. I wrote one book that is specifically focused on employee motivation. It's called Empower Your Employees, and I wrote that book specifically for the HR industry, the human resource professionals. And that book, literally at a conference, before the book was even published, I already had pre-orders over 300 for that because people wanted it. And so maybe think about too how do DJs know about your book? Whether it's Twitter hashtags and social media, or that's a whole. We can have a separate offline conversation. But with technology nowadays, it's really easy to get books into a certain industry, especially if they have an association too that's built within that industry, which I'm sure there are There's associations for associations, so it's it's overwhelming sometimes at what's out there.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for all the information. I've definitely learned a lot, and I'm gonna send you that email. And Brandon, are you there? Are you still on?
Yes, I'm still here.
Hey, Brandon, I just wanted to say thank you to you too, because this past Saturday when we last seen each other, I told you that I thought about going out to the DJ stores and trying to get a book placement inside there, and you told me to make sure I go and do it, and I really wasn't planning to do it until you told me at the end of the meeting to make sure I go and do it. And I wanted to tell you, Brandon, I got 2 stores to actually get my book placement inside of. So I just want to thank you for that, because I was very nervous to go out there, and you said, forget it, just go and do it, and I did it, and it actually worked, and I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it a lot.
And I appreciate you on the call tonight and sharing that. But, man, woo, I'm excited, man. I'm happy for you. Kevin, what I did with Manson there, I told him about John Maxwell saying about the frogs in the log. I said there was 5 frogs in the log. I said 4 decided to jump. How many frogs are on the log? He said just be 1 frog left. I said no, it'll still be 5. Deciding don't mean doing. You got to go and do it. I said don't try to make it there. Go ahead and do it. And he said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So I'm glad you took my advice, man, and went out there and seized the moment. Preparation, meets opportunity, and you find success every time, man. Success leaves clues. And obviously, I'm proud of you, Manson. You're doing a great job, man, and you're going to get there, obviously.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That just motivated me. That's awesome.
We're gonna go ahead to the next caller. We're gonna try to only do 2 more, maybe 3 more. I know a lot of people, like I told you, Kevin, there's gonna be a lot of people asking you some questions. So, if you can please hit star if you got a question, and tell us your name and where you're from.
Yes, my name is Ardell Draper. I'm in Atlanta, and first of all, I want to say thank you to Brandon Draper for having this avenue where you can share people's experiences and their knowledge they have. It really motivates everybody, and that's what it's all about. I mean, you just had a perfect example of the last caller. I also want to say to Dr. Snyder, we really appreciate you taking up time to come in and share some of your knowledge. The question I have is kind of a twofold question. You made the point in your presentation, you mentioned about how sometimes we as people think that we need more before we can ever get started. It could be obstacles like money or family or, just all these different obstacles that may come in the way. Now, I don't want to sound like negative Ned, but, in reality, these stuff are going to come, and especially a lot of times it's finances. So among all the obstacles that we have and not being known for your speaking abilities, what is the best way for somebody to become a motivational speaker? I invited a couple of people who are trying to become motivational speakers.
Yeah.
And I went out there and saw some of their, speeches, and they're actually wonderful, but, they just don't know how to get out there. And then the flip side of that question is, you mentioned about having passion, changing your mindset and having passion. Is there a such thing as having too much passion to the point to where you have no direction?
Ooh, I like that. That second question almost got me thinking for a minute. I'm like, let me think. Let me just answer the second question first and say no. Okay. There's no problem. There's no problem with having too much passion, unless it's annoying, Okay. But I think, I look at when people, for example, for my personal speaking business, I focus on being a good kickoff keynote presenter, like for a conference or a closer, like when they really want the energy set, for their attendees at a conference or that normally boring, annual meeting, blah blah blah. Well, they bring me in and, hey, we put paint primer on the wall and we're gonna have some fun. So they know that one day or those next 2 or 3 days, oh my gosh, where did this guy come from? This is gonna be fun. I didn't think, blah blah blah. Now, they're not used to that, right? So that energy,
Right.
that passion, that enthusiasm, it's refreshing. And I remember doing a conference with, it was a legal conference, and I literally went there early in the day and sat in these sessions with them just to experience the variety of speakers and content, but most importantly, the delivery style. Because I didn't know how these other speakers were going to be as compared to me.
Right.
So I was bored out of my mind. I mean, it hurt. And at the end of the day, I shifted around some of my content and made a gut decision to simply have some fun. Now, I made sure the content still was there, but I had, to this day still, at that gig, I had the longest line of people waiting to talk with me afterward, and I had the most success of all my bookings. That literally, that one keynote spinned off into about 20 other paid speaking keynotes because people simply said to me, "You had so much fun. It was so refreshing. I have to bring you in for this or whatever."
Okay.
And I'm no different than anybody else. I mean, that I feel that should fit into anybody. People want to laugh. They want to be engaged. They want to be entertained. You have to have substance. But if you have a substance, then it's all about how you deliver it.
Exactly.
And I really, here's the money question. This goes back to your first question, where to kind of start with speaking. Here is the money question that everyone needs to be able to answer for themselves. And this is also the question that most people that I coach and work with, they can't at first, because this is the struggle. And it's this: what problem do you solve as a speaker? Meaning, when you go in to speak, are you solving a problem, or do you just want to speak? Because I have never, ever, to this day, been asked to come in and speak. I've been asked to come in and help them solve a problem. And that problem many times is, hey, we want to improve our, we just did a reorganization and people don't trust this, or they're not motivated, or we want to do it. It's always focused on a lack of something. So I think as speakers, as we get started, or wherever we're at, whether we're current speakers, aspiring speakers, emerging speakers, whatever, really focusing on what your strength is, as what problem do you solve. Because when I ask that question to folks, usually at the beginning conversation, I'll say, so tell me, what do you speak on? And I got to cut them off 5 minutes later. 5 minutes later, I got to cut them off. It's like, all right, if I were a potential client, I would not hire you.
Right. Right.
Versus, if you can answer that question, like, what do you speak on? Oh, why help companies motivate their employees and reduce their turnover? Or, something like that. It's like, oh, how do you do that? Or tell me more. So, for anybody on this call, if you have a little bug in you, or you already are speaking, and even if you want to take it to the next level, what helped me with my personal success with speaking was really identifying and having clarity on, I wasn't just going in to speak. It wasn't about me. It was about what problem I was helping them solve. And sometimes they don't even know. Like they need help with that themselves. So that's part of what I call my little happy call when I am talking with potential clients. Is I have a series of couple questions with them, and I get to know, why are they actually bringing me to speak? Because they're not bringing me in just to share my story. They're bringing me in to help them solve a problem.
Right. Good point. Really do appreciate that.
Yeah. And let me say one last thing too. I know I answered that question pretty long. And here's the great thing. Here's the secret sauce, is that when you really have an understanding, not but in general, when people have an understanding what they speak on, then you have to vision, okay, well, who is that audience that applies to?
Exactly.
Right? Because here's what I find gets people caught. Okay, so and like for me, I could talk to and probably anybody on this call, you could talk to a wide variety of audiences, but you got to get started or to maybe help prime the pump, you gotta have, I would say, focus on what are those 2 or 3 different types of audiences. Like pick 2 or 3, no more, no less. It's got to be 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if those are professionals, then what industry are those in, and what associations are those industries in? Because those are the industries and associations you want to be speaking to.
Right.
For me personally, I speak to a lot of college. Half my business is colleges. The other half is corporations at a variety of levels. But the point with that is, when I was first getting started, I didn't try to speak to everybody. I focused in on human resources professionals, college students, and associations that had annual meetings. Like I didn't try to speak to everybody. I focused it in. So that's where answering that question of what problem do you solve helps, because it gives you focus on, okay, what industry is this going to serve then?
Okay.
And now I'll shut up. So sorry.
Again, really do appreciate your answer.
All right, we're gonna
Very well.
we're gonna one more, maybe 2. If someone else has a question, you could hit star and come on and ask the question to Dr. Snyder. Hello, I think we can hear you. Someone's there.
Brandon, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Outstanding. My name is Andy. I'm calling from Dover, Delaware. Dr. Snyder, can you hear me?
I sure can, yes.
My question is, now that you are a well-established speaker and author, if you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently to avoid any bad decisions or mistakes you have made along the way? In other words, what would be your most direct route to get you where you are right now?
That is a very powerful question. I'll tell you what, I started speaking for fun, and that, for me, that was what it was all about. I didn't want necessarily to have a career in it. In fact, I didn't even think I was that very good at it. But looking back, I had a pretty good story, that somebody believed in me, a mentor, and he literally came to one of my sessions and he said afterward, you need to take this on the road. I didn't really want to. I didn't have the I had a side job. I had a job that I was happy, but I had somebody, a mentor, that pushed me. And after about 2 or 3 years of kind of, figuring out and doing things here and there, I actually then had another mentor who was actually a speaker, though, and he pulled me under his wing and kind of gave me some tips on delivery style and just things of that nature. So as I was back and all that, to answer this question pretty quickly would be, find somebody that is doing it and let them coach you. Let them mentor you, whatever the word is you want to use. Find somebody, and this is what I tell those college students all the time, is I say, if you're not 100% sure what you want to do, or if you know what you want to do, why are you not talking to faculty at your university about that? Why are you not asking them to lunch? Why are you not going to their office hours? Because they've done what you want to do. They love talking about themselves. Go talk to them. People kind of laugh at that, but it's true. I have never, if I've ever gotten an email or a phone call or a text or whatever from anybody who wants to get into speaking, that is a privilege for me. Like this whole time that we spent tonight, it's a privilege for me. So, thank you, Brandon, and it's a privilege. I would love to see somebody else, 1 year, 1 month, 10 years, I don't care, on a stage that I talked to at one point, and they're nailing it. They're just passion-centered, and they're just killing it. That would make my heart smile. So the key is find somebody, whether it's local, online, or I mean not online, but like somebody that you can have a just a relationship with, who kind of has a similar type of concept for you, and allow them to coach you or just mentor you, and you have to ask for that a lot of times, because that's going to help. They're going to be able to share that knowledge with you. I wish I would have had a coach. Looking back, that would have saved me probably about 5 to 10 years. So, I mean, it's nuts. If I knew, and frankly, going back to the last question too, if I would have been able to answer my own question, what problem am I helping people solve? That would have saved me years of time if somebody would have just helped me focus on that right there. Because I would be honest with you, the first 2 or 3 years, I think I just spoke for fun. I did good, but I was not at the level I could have been if I had been more focused, if somebody would have challenged me and said, okay, you speak, it's great, it's fun, but what's the call to action? What do they actually leave with? Because the answer to that would have been, not so much. They feel good, but because I'm not helping them really solve a problem, I don't really have a good call to action either. So I've not talked much about the call to action piece tonight, but that is a huge piece. If you're a speaker, or even through books, if you have a solid call to action, that's where your recurring gigs come in. That's when you start selling books, is because people know, hey, by me reading this, by me hearing this person speak, there's going to be a change. There's going to be positivity created. The first couple of years I would speak, I didn't have that. I mean, now that's my focus. And when I talk with people too, I ask them, what is your call to action? What do you want people to do after the hour that you've spent with them as a keynoter? And if they can't answer that, then they need to start thinking about that. Because when you have that in mind, it helps you become very intentional and very focused as a speaker, what they're going to leave with. Because when you're so good that they can't forget you, guess what? That's when the other gigs come as a spinoff. And your phone starts ringing off the hook. So what problem do you solve? What's your call to action? And, find some mentors. Find some people that are doing it that you want to, that you connect to.
Thank you, Mrs. Dr. Snyder. I wrote down everything.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, once again, thank you, Kevin, for being on the call tonight. One of the things I want to ask you at this time, could you break down maybe some training that you have available, and maybe I hate to put you on the spot, if someone on the call wanted to invest in themselves and said, hey, I really like what Dr. Snyder was talking about tonight. I really want to look into some more opportunities to learn and to get mentored. Because you mentioned that, how would they go about to do that exactly?
Yeah, you can look around your local area. I know, if anybody on this call wants to just go to my website, I really believe in transparency. I mean, how I write is how I talk, and my website reflects me 110%. I don't try to seem too professional on purpose. But if you go to my website, I've got some information there. And if you feel a connection to that, like if you really want to get into college speaking, that's my forte. I would love to support you and be involved with your journey to be a college speaker. There's a ton of money in college speaking, trust me, because those college kids, a lot of times the operating budgets from the university, that's not what brings you in to speak. It's the student government fees. It's the student tuition fees. Like, it's a whole separate budget line, and that will never be cut because a board of trustees, they won't do that. So if you're interested in college speaking, that's a huge part of what I do. I would love to support you in that. But also some of the corporate stuff too. So anyway, take a look at my website. It's kevincsnyder.com. Pretty easy. Like my email. I'll say it one more time. It's Kevin at. I'm sorry. The website is kevinscsnyder.com, and Snyder's again spelled like the pretzel. But yeah, I appreciate that. Brandon, just I love supporting people's purpose and their cause, what they want to do with their passion, their dream. So if I can help at all, I'd love to be involved.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. I'm so excited that you shared all that information with you. I'm glad to call you a friend, definitely a coach and a mentor. I think everyone on the call really appreciate the information that you shared. I mean, it's just ideas, and that's something that I talk about. I basically tell people, like, sometimes in life, like you mentioned earlier, and during your talk, you were talking about, sometimes you don't know how close you are to winning or getting to the other end, and then you quit and you stop, and you don't know how close you really were. And I look at life as, sometimes our life, who we are, what we do, is like a combination lock. And sometimes we need 4 or 5 numbers, 4 or 5 combinations to open up our true potential, our true self. And the only way for you to get each one of those numbers is to either, get an experience or an idea from someone else other than your circle, or sometimes you gotta go outside to get it in. But you share those ideas, you get another combination and another combination. So you need 5, but you get 4. But you close yourself in and you be like a little hermit, and you wind up missing out on that last combination that you need to open up the true you, to open up all the potential and desires you have in you. And man, I believe that I got another number in that combination tonight with the information that you shared. I think there's a lot of other people on this call that they got just one more digit closer to opening up their true potential and becoming their true self. So we definitely, and I speak for everyone when I say we definitely appreciate your time tonight, sharing that information with us and really pouring into us, your systems, your belief. And I believe there's going to be a lot of people from this call reaching out to you to get more information about the different programs that you have. So we want to say thank you.
Thank you. And I say follow the passion, but also keep it simple. Keep it simple. Don't make it complicated, y'all.
What is it called? The KISS method? Keep it simple, stupid?
The KISS principle, yep.
All right, Kevin, man, we appreciate it. Is there anything else, any last words you want to leave with us, and then we're going to end the call? Anything you want to leave with us?
No, I'm going to be calling into these calls. I'm going to get my Hump Day motivation every Wednesday with Brandon here. Thanks, buddy.
I mean, I appreciate you, man, so much. Thank you so much. Hey, thank you, everyone, for being on the call. Again, you can reach out to Kevin at kevinsnyder.com. I want to make sure I got that right. I think, is that right, Kevin?
Kevin at kevinscsnyder.com. Put a C in the middle of that for Charles. Otherwise, it goes to some weird guy, this redneck in Georgia who hates me.
We don't want that to happen. So it's Kevin at kevinscsnyder.com. And if you can, if you want to share your phone number, I want to make sure everyone has every opportunity to share. And if they want to get coaching from you, that they're able to get that coaching from you as possible. I know you're busy. I know you got so many. So anybody that's interested in getting coached by him, understand that he has a limited amount of seats that he has, but it's a great opportunity for you to get coached by Dr. Snyder here. So if you can share your phone number again with us, just to make sure everyone gets it and is able to get in contact with you.
Well, and I'm happy to answer any questions too. I mean, coaching, I don't make it sound like a formal or a plug or anything, but if I can, anybody, send me a text, give me a call. I'll be happy to answer any questions you got. So it's 919-633-9931.
I'm not trying to be funny when I say this for those on the line, but you got a guy, and I've seen you matriculate through this at least for the last 2 years. And I know when we first met, I think at the Cardinal Club, we went to another meeting arrangement or whatever, another meetup group, and I've seen how Kevin's evolved. So I'm looking at you now, and I said, man, this can be the next Bob Proctor. this can be the next Brian Tracy or Tony Robbins. So, guys, if you're on the call right now, you got to understand, like, you have access to greatness right here. And I'm not trying to pump him up more than what he is, but, you've experienced him for yourself, so you actually get to hear it from the horse's mouth, the principles that he stands by and keeping it simple. So it might be a great opportunity for you to tap into that. 2, 3, 5 years from now, you can say, I was on a conference call with Dr. Kevin Snyder, and I didn't seize that opportunity to really get coached by him, and then now he's a Tony Robbins. All these guys that we hear about, we talk about the great Zig Ziglars and Jim Rohn, and these guys are slowly and gradually, we still got the principles there, but they're, it's sad to say, but they're starting to die off. So who's going to replace them? Who's going to be the next, Zig Ziglar or Jim Rohn or Brian Tracy and Bob Proctor? And so it's your time to step up. Get the information, invest in yourself. There's a lot of different quotes out there that people say, but Warren Buffett said it best. He said the best investment you ever can make is in yourself. Take the opportunity, invest in yourself, and learn something different. Take a different approach. If you keep doing the same thing over and over, you're gonna keep getting the same results, guarantee. Kevin, we greatly appreciate you taking the time and opportunity. We don't hold you up anymore. We're going to like almost an hour and 30 minutes. So, like I said, we really enjoyed you, really appreciate you. Please make sure you email or call him, text him any questions that you may have. And until next Wednesday, guys, we will talk to you later. Love everyone. Thank you, Kevin, so much. We appreciate it.
Hey, bless you all. I appreciate it. Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Brandon. Bye.
Bye-bye.